So I'm not going to lie, having a cold and doing a radio show, very, very, very difficult stuff. But we do what we do because there are people doing far more serious things in far worse conditions. Tony Katz today is the name of the show. The radio show is about to begin, and we're going to bring them in. And we're going to start, of course, where we start, which is a walkout of the State of the Union. All right. I mean, I'm scheduled to be there, so this could be cool. Let's go. A walkout of the State of the Union? Oh, I could only hope. If only because I'm going to be there. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Find everything going on over at TonyKatz.com. Live streaming in all the places we live stream, the YouTube, the Twitter X, the Facebook, the LinkedIn's. I don't even know where else we are. This is the story. Newsmax with the headline, Dems plot walkouts, boycotts for Trump's State of the Union. If that's the case, do I still have to sit up in the gallery, or can I have Bernie Sanders' seat? Right? Can I have Al Green's seat? And does he have like an extra cane laying about? Well, this could be fascinating. So Democrats are weighing all of it. Boycotts, walkouts, and competing rallies. So the president of the United States is delivering the State of the Union as prescribed by the Constitution. Agreed. It doesn't have to be the way we do it. It wouldn't have to be something with all the pomp and circumstance. It could be a one-page letter. Hey, guys, everything is great. Signed, Donnie. And that would be enough. That you understand that. How we do the State of the Union is stagecraft. It was never meant to be this. And we should be clear, it can be this, but it doesn't have to be this. Not in the slightest. The State of the Union can just be a letter written, in crayon. Everything's cool. Have a good day. Signed, President of the United States. That's it. That's all that has to be done. But Democrats, some of them might skip the event altogether. Others might leave and protest mid-speech. According to Representative Jared Huffman of California, the only question for me is which of his disgusting lines prompts me to get up and leave, because at some point I will. It doesn't matter what line. You already said you're going to do it. Doesn't matter whichever one you decide. Whatever thing you decide, because you can't actually sit there because you have to act out on against Donald Trump, because after all, that's the whole party. The whole party, there's no policy conversation. There's no real disagreement that they can engage. Rather, it's all emotion all the time. 10,000%. There's nothing else. So I'm not sure how they're going to do this. I'm not sure what they're going to do. All I know is I'm scheduled to be there. I was invited by Senator Todd Young. I'm going to be in the ticket. My plane ticket's already purchased. I still have to get a hotel. I didn't know where I wanted to be yet. And the only thing I have to figure out is when you're in the gallery, when you're up there, you can't take your phone with you. You leave that somewhere, right? There's a whole system for that. I don't know if I can bring my lighter and cutter to have a cigar afterwards. So I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to put that one together yet. So I got to figure that one out. Because nothing would make me happier than to have a cigar on the Capitol steps. I don't even know if that's allowed, but worth a shot. Totally worth trying. So while they are thinking about, what kind of signs they're going to use and what kind of nonsense protests they're going to use, because again, everything is about the sloganeering. Everything is about the emoji sloganeering. This is how they talk. There's no actual debate. There's no, hey, we disagree and here's why. There is only, how can we attack? How can we kill? How can we destroy? How can we maim? How can we ruin? Again and again, over and over and over. Right? There's no engagement on the facts at all. But I wanted to share with you another story. This was Abby Phillip over at CNN, just to prove a point. And the point is that the rallying around that you see is just proof of how corrupt the media is. And you say to me, Tony, that's a pretty stock line. Also, Tony, do you have a cold? I don't know if it's a cold or if it's allergy. So it's not your radio. It's not your live stream. It's me. And let me tell you, doing a live stream while your nose is running, not an attractive look. It really isn't. You look at me, you're like, my God, is Tony doing a Hunter Biden impression? What's happening here? I think it's allergies. That's what I think it is. We saw how poorly Representative Ocasio-Cortez performed at the Munich Security Conference. She was a mess. She could not answer about Taiwan. She could not answer about, she was trying to go after Marco Rubio for his speech. She didn't know her where the last name Cortez comes from. She didn't know about horses coming to the United States. She's trying to mock him, and she fails miserably because she has no, what's the word? She has no mind. She claims that she did prep for this. This is what you're like with prep? But did Joe Biden prep you for this? Remember, he was prepping for the debate with Trump. Oh, gosh, there's so much prep. He's taking this so seriously. He's doing so much prep. You mean you got him to stay awake for an hour and a half? Let's talk about what we mean by prep. She was a disaster. And complaining to the New York Times that her message against authoritarianism didn't come through. Oh, no. It came through, except it was a message for authoritarianism, and you're the authoritarian. We got it. We understood it. We're fully aware the kind of person that you are. You want to control speech. You want to control dollars. You're probably thrilled that Zohran Mamdani is raising taxes in New York. They're going to do a 10% property tax increase. Never mind, they're going to go after pensions to balance the budget. They don't reduce spending. No. They just take more money. But hey, New York, you voted for this, you suffer. What do you want from me? Oh, some of you didn't vote for him, and that's true. But I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to get bent out of shape for what's happening in New York. Leave. And so we're clear, because I've said this before. You know who are the first two companies that have to leave New York? Fox and Newsmax. What are you doing? Why in the world are you in New York? There's no reason for it. What, you have a couple of hosts who live in New Jersey and they refuse to leave? You'll find other hosts and they'll all move. So let's not kid ourselves. Why are you still there? Why are you still pumping money into this city? Walk away. New York is the capital of the world. Somehow you need to be there to do media. Everybody is connected via Zoom or some kind of video link. I'm streaming I use StreamYard. Go ahead. It's right there. I'm in my home, connected to my station, connected to stations all across the country. You need to be in New York. Stop it. Stop it. I think you're doing the shareholders an incredible disservice by being in New York. I think you're crazy. I think you're putting your staff at risk. Not the high-profile guys who might have security, but everybody who makes them look good on camera. You're crazy for staying in New York. But Ocasio-Cortez, she did poorly, very poorly. And here comes Abby Phillip to her defense. Abby Phillip hosts the show on CNN, which has become more and more unwatchable. It doesn't matter how much Scott Jennings crushes or now, what's his name? The Mr. Wonderful guy, Kevin O'Leary. Is that his name? By the way, to me, Mr. Wonderful will always be Paul Orndorff. Oh, yeah. You didn't know Tony had a little bit of the wrestling in him. Yeah, well, when you were raised on Georgia Championship Wrestling and Gordon Soley, you remember a couple things. Yes, you do. And here she is. Never mind that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did so poorly at the Munich Security Conference. What about Trump?
A flub for AOC, but the question is also, what happens when the president, the actual president of the United States, does very similar things on the world stage? So look, I'll give you that AOC probably should have been more ready for that question, but are we going to really pretend that the actual president of the United States has not made similar or perhaps worse flubs on the global stage? Bad answers, bad answers. What do you think should happen to Donald Trump as a result of his bad answers?
AOC word salad girl.
What about when Donald Trump in 2024 said, I think Taiwan should pay us for defense?
For you.
It was terrible.
John, hey, I'm just asking for you all to apply the same standard.
I think he makes mistakes
to
all the time.
the president
I crack up
as you
laughing,
do
just
to
like I cracked
AOC.
up at Joe Biden when he made.
Now let's take a moment here. Because first, you have to apply the same standard to Trump that you do to AOC. It's not right to say these things about Representative Ocasio-Cortez. No one from CNN gets to tell us about applying standards to presidents of the United States when you would not admit that Joe Biden was not compos mentis, that he was not capable of understanding his own mind, that he was wandering around in France, that he needed the Easter Bunny to direct him to the stage, that Joe Biden had to run cabinet meetings because he could not. And now you want to lecture to us about Trump? Oh, honey. Honey. Are you out of your skull? Are you out of your mind? We're laughing at you. We are laughing at you, Abby Phillip, because you deserve to be laughed at. And I'll say it again for the people in the cheap seats. She could have had it all. She could have had it all. She had the opportunity to be the show. The only reason to watch CNN, she could have had on good guests. She could have had serious debate, things we might have disagreed with, but it could have been debate. It could have been something. It could have mattered. And she's like, nope, screw that. I'm just going to be the lefty shill. And I'm going to have to deal with Scott Jennings because I want some ratings. And I'll just put on anybody out there to just say anything they can to hurt Trump, and that'll be that. She could have had a show. Could have been a good show. Could have mattered. That's over. It's over. Doesn't matter. You actually want to say to us, what about Trump? For 4 years, we said, is anybody looking at Joe Biden? Is anybody paying attention to what they're saying over here? Is anybody going to notice that this guy is not okay? Because this guy is not okay. And even after the debate, you weren't going to notice? After his time in France, you weren't going to notice? After the constant slurring of the words, you weren't going to notice? I'll tell you what, Abby Phillip. I'll tell you what. I think Donald Trump looks older. I saw him yesterday on Air Force One. And I said he does. He does look older. What was really interesting is that while he looked older, he sounded better. This is the second or third time, because sometimes he sounds like really quiet and sometimes he sounds like he's got that cold in his throat. He sounded as strong as I have heard him in a long time. He just looks older. When he was giving the speech in front of soldiers at Fort Bragg, I thought he looked older. I thought he sounded sensational. The actual voice, never mind the actual commentary, the actual voice. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, he looks older. I'm willing to accept the fact that the president is older. I'm absolutely willing to accept that. I'm also here to say that at every moment he knows 1,000% where he is, and all these arguments of, oh, he's flubbing, oh, he's losing his mind, is garbage. It's horse crap. We're not playing in. We're not buying in. But if we're now going to say that Biden had a reason, then you're going to say Trump had a reason, and Trump is 10 billion% better than Biden. Trump has no issues. No one questions his cognitive ability. And we're not questioning the cognitive ability of Ocasio-Cortez. She's just stupid. It was an embarrassing couple of days for her. She prepped and she failed. She's not quick on her feet. She is not smart. She does not have an understanding of history. She has no way to pull back. What she can do is set a fire underneath a whole bunch of democratic socialists, communists, and she can be a formidable candidate for president. Because you don't have to be smart. You just have to have the right emoji sloganeering. And she's got it. So, defend her all you want by saying, but Trump, it doesn't but do anything. She's fine. Because nobody thinks of her as smart. All she has to do is say Trump bad and blank ice and any of the rest of the 2-word, 3-word, 4-word slogans, which is all she's capable of grasping. And she'll be a candidate in no time. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. So StreamYard now has a QR code you can add. Why am I adding a QR code? Where do I put this? Hold on. Check out the site. And I'll put in. All right. So now what? Creates a code for me? Is it send it out? Does it? I have no idea what it just did. Did anybody just get a QR code? No, yes, maybe? That was weird. Hold on, is there like a place for me to post something? Did it go in the comments? No. All right, super weird. Guys, good to be with you. Glad you're here. I appreciate it. No, I'm saying, Pete, that the QR didn't show up. So I don't know. It's like, hey, we'll make a QR code for you. I'm like, great. And then I did it. It's like, no QR code for you. Suck it. And I'm like, what do I don't know what to do with that. Very weird. Anyway, I'm Tony Katz. As you know, the show is Tony Katz Today. I'm going to say allergies. Just the nose, the sinuses. It's not fun. Not fun today, but people do, they have real jobs and they have real not fun. So who am I to complain? It's gross. Not going to lie. Not fun. Let's see where we are. Zuckerberg. So Mark Zuckerberg is testifying in a case in Los Angeles. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Good to be here. Find everything over at TonyKatz.com. The case is about whether or not social media platforms harm children. Now, full disclosure, yes. But the question is the platform set up to cause this harm? This is KGM versus Meta Platforms, Inc. And it's followed by a 20-year-old who's identified by KGM. And what she is saying is that Meta and other social media platforms engineer the platform to hook young users. They fuel the worst impulses to keep you scrolling. So in this case, she is saying that the platform utilized algorithm and other tools to feed into her depression and suicidal thoughts. Meta, which is, say, Instagram and Facebook, Google, which is YouTube, they deny this. They cite the safety features, the years of building on these things, the parental controls as part of their defense. And they are going to take a look at the other factors into this girl's life. Again, I will say, isn't there a place and a space for personal responsibility in all of this? Don't parents have a job to do? Don't they have a responsibility to monitor what is happening? Well, I can't watch what my kids are having. They'll just get a fake one. You have a responsibility, of course. Of course you do. What do you mean your kids? It's their phone or it's their this. Stop it. They're your kids. You get to make all sorts of decisions. One of the arguments is that it could hold tech companies responsible. Tech companies are going to use Section 230. This is the idea of platform and not publisher, which is to say, all we are is a platform for this content. We don't actually publish the content. We cannot be held liable for the actual content. Now, one could argue, well, there's a question about how you serve the content, regardless of whether you make the content, and that you are responsible for. If that is the case, where the plaintiff wins, you would then be saying Section 230 has been pierced, however you want to call it, and everything is up for grabs. Then you could see a lot of other lawsuits. According to the reporting from Fox Business, more than 2,300 related lawsuits filed by parents, school districts, and state attorneys general in federal courts. New Mexico is already involved in one of these cases. I don't get to say with certitude that these social media companies are somehow off the hook or they are blameless. I don't think that they're blameless. But if we're not going to note parental responsibility in this, I don't know what we're doing. And these people haven't acted like platforms in a while. This is Tony Katz today. 10,000% they act like publisher. When they say you can't talk about Hunter Biden's laptop, when they say you can't do this, that, or the other, but the left can do all these things, that's publisher, not platform. And so I think they should have to deal with the consequences of their actions there. I don't know how I feel about a broad brush of the platforms are guilty and that's it. I don't think it's that simplistic. Valenius wants me to take bee pollen. Do you mean honey or do you mean bee pollen? And where is Sarah to lecture me about what I should be taking for my possible allergies. Sarah, who runs all our digital, if you didn't know this, very granola. Sarah is like the crunchy conservative, which honestly, if that name is not taken on Twitter, Sarah, you got to get to that immediately. And she's all about, like, all I want to do with my time is just work in the garden. That's all I want to do. I want to grow tomatoes and maybe make a salad, and then I want to grow something else. That's it. That's all I want. Forget the rest. Okay, so now there she is, and telling me I should be taking bee pollen. What do you mean bee pollen? Do you mean honey? Or do you mean bee pollen? So I have to get pollen in powder form? Hold on. You guys don't know what you're talking about. You're all just drunk. Bee pollen. Like organic bee pollen. Wait, is this the stuff you mean? Hold on. This right here. This is Amazon. You mean like this stuff? Bee pollen granules? What do I do with this? I take it and I sprinkle it on my cereal? What do I do? You can't just tell me, yes, sir, Sarah. How do I eat this crap? If I snort it, that's kind of funny. No, it sounds like a terrible idea. So is it like granola? You eat it? No, Sarah doesn't know. Sarah's not really crunchy. She's just doing that for effect. Is there a brand? Do you have a brand that you like? And what is it going to do? How does it help? Hold on. Jeffrey is chiming in. You sprinkle it on food. It's like flaxseed. Oh, then I definitely don't want it. Saying it's like flaxseed is not a way to make me say, delicious. It's like chocolate sprinkles. There you go. It's like coconut crunchies on a donut. Absolutely. Does it matter which one I get? This one's 100% USDA certified organic, non-GMO, halal, and kosher. It's covering all the bases. All right, I'm ordering this. Which one comes today? I have to get it by tomorrow. Okay, all right. Which one, guys? Which one am I getting? Gotta get back to the show. You're no help. New Yorkers are shocked to learn that Zohran Mamdani is going to raise their taxes. They are shocked to learn that Zohran Mamdani doesn't know how to govern, that he is going to raise taxes, and those taxes are property taxes that will go up by nearly 10%. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. This was the reporting from Harris Faulkner and her team over there at Fox News.
Thank you. Jason Chaffetz, former Republican chairman of House Oversight and a Fox News contributor. First of all, I want to get your initial reaction to how Mamdani is governing at this point.
Well, when you have only governed an Instagram account and then suddenly you're going to deal with $100+ billion, he's forgetting another option out there, and that is to cut expenses. Stop spending so much money. Live within your means. His rich little parents have never taught him that lesson, and now he's trying to run a city and he doesn't understand numbers.
He is a believer that right now, the city of New York is going to have a shortfall. And how do they deal with this reality? You've had this happen before where you live. You've had it happen before where Local government tells you, well, we're not going to be able to afford this, that, and the other, so we have to raise taxes. I this morning gave a speech to a local Republican club, a couple hundred people, and I got asked a question at the end about taxation. And I said, on the federal level, I oppose all income taxes. Income taxes are an obscenity before the Lord. But on the local level, I do not mind that there are taxes and that there are amenities that communities want, and they have to be paid for. That's a far cry from when they say, well, we have to raise your property tax, and if you don't want this, well, we won't have fire services. Maybe you should get fired, mayor, town council, however it works. Maybe you need to get fired. You need to get canned. And we'll bring in somebody who knows what it is that they're doing. It's pretty important that you bring in people who know what they're doing. You can't just scream, well, pay the taxes, or you won't have the fire put out if it hits your house. Zoran Mamdani seems to be making this exact claim.
At the heart of this path is a property tax increase. This would effectively be a tax on working and middle-class New Yorkers who have a median income of $122,000. The second path also requires us to raid our reserves. It would mean withdrawing $980 million from our city's rainy day fund in fiscal year 2026 and $229 million from the Retiree Health Benefit Trust in fiscal year 2027. These are steps that have been taken before, but only in moments of extraordinary external crisis. Mayor Bloomberg's response to the 2008 financial collapse and Mayor de Blasio's response to the enormous revenue shortfall caused by the pandemic. We do not want to have to turn to such drastic measures to balance our budget.
But they are more than happy to turn to those drastic measures. The argument from Mamdani is that, well, the city isn't going to put a wealth tax on. I mean, the state isn't going to put a wealth tax on. And since they won't put a wealth tax on, we're going to have to do this because, well, the wealthy should have to pay. It's not a fair share. It's a nonsense number. Let's attack them. And then we'll just keep having programs. Never mind putting Islamists and the worst progressives in positions of power. Never once does Mamdani's team consider, okay, well, we can't spend on these things. No. They're going to spend, and they don't care if they bankrupt a city to do it. I have to admit that I don't care if the city gets bankrupted. Doesn't matter to me. I cannot bring myself to care. Do they have budget issues? Sure, they have budget issues. Into the billions? Absolutely into the billions. You want an interesting number? I'll give you an interesting number. This was posted by who was this on the Twitters? Geiger Capital. Very, very interesting bit of numbers here. So this is the breakdown of the budget. $94 billion for the agencies, $33 billion for pensions and debt services, 40% to the DOE, 26% social services, 12% uniformed agencies. So 7% of the budget is New York Police Department, 3% is fire department, 5% of health, and it breaks down from there. The budget is $127 billion. Wow, New York's budget is $127 billion? No. New York City's budget. The budget for just the 5 boroughs, for Manhattan, for Queens, for the Bronx, for Brooklyn, and for Staten Island. $127 billion. What makes that number interesting is, as it is pointed out, that's the budget for the city of New York. The budget for the entire state of Florida, the budget for New York is $127 billion. The budget for the entire state of Florida is $117 billion. Yeah, it's an eye-opening number. It's $10 billion less. With a B. In Florida, there are 23 million people, 23 million Floridians. In New York, there are 8 million. So to take care of 8 million people, you need $127 billion. Hold on a second. Do we do the math this way? Is this right? I don't even know if my calculator could go this high. Maybe I turn it sideways. Right? But I take 127 and then there's a lot of zeros. There's 127 billion. I divide that by 8 million. Do I have that right? $15,875 per New Yorker? Is that it? That's what it takes. But if I have 117 billion, there you go, and I divide that by 23 million, that's $5,086. It takes $10,000 more dollars per citizen to run New York instead of Florida. Well, Tony, admittedly, in New York, you have snow removal. I saw what just happened in New York. No, you don't. Well, Tony, I mean, there is trash removal. I just saw what happened this winter in New York. No, you don't. They don't have trash removal in Florida. They deal with hurricanes. They get the lights back on. And it got so cold that iguanas were falling from the sky. You think that in Florida they have a falling ice iguana budget? Maybe they do, but I don't think it's that big. Someone get with Ron DeSantis. Is there a budget for the falling frozen ice iguanas? By the way, frozen ice iguanas, great name for a band, better name for a tequila. What am I? Julian, we're making a tequila. Frozen ice iguana. Frozen ice iguana tequila. Falling, or is it just falling iguana tequila? Falling iguana tequila. Or frozen iguana tequila. Honestly, we're going to have to take a poll. We need to get the boys in the lab. We're going to need a poll. We're going to have to figure this out. Oh, I'll have this tequila up in 30 days' time, to quote Neil Brennan. Why in the world does New York need all that money? Why don't they cut a program? Progressives never cut a program. Progressives never look at the situation and say, okay, we can't afford this. They look at you and say, you can afford more. And then they say, give us our money. And they use the force of government to get it. Remember, government is force. That's what it is. Government is force. In the end, that's what it is. Even if you say, hey, I just want government to, have a military and enforce contracts. How do you enforce a contract without force? Remember, I'm a liberty guy, not a freedom guy. And there is a difference. It's not that I have oppositions to the very concepts of freedom. It's that I believe that a society thrives best when there are a couple of guardrails, when there are a couple of borders, and we know how to operate within them. When people know how to operate within the rules, that's when I think people are most free and it's easier to engage and exchange and enjoy. When you have freedom and nobody knows the rules, it's harder. That's why I'm a liberty guy. This is not to say that I favor mass government. No, I favor Article 1, Section 8. I favor the leanest, smallest government humanly possible. But I do favor some government. I'm not an anti-government guy. I just want government inside a scope, right? I want it within a framework. And I want that framework to be outrageously limited, which is why I think the founding fathers, I think the idea of the Constitution is so remarkable. The how of America, here's how we do it, versus the Declaration of Independence, which is the why of America, which is, of course, a beautiful document and nothing like it in the world, this explanation that we indeed are free, which the founding fathers really believed. And there's a really, you take a look at Adams and Jefferson it was tasked with writing the Constitution. And part of that is because John Adams, being from Massachusetts, knew that he needed to get other states to agree. And Thomas Jefferson, being from Virginia and being the largest state and certainly the most prosperous state, if he wrote it, it would be more likely to get passed. And Adams believed that Jefferson had better flourish of the pen than Adams did. He wrote Jefferson wrote in more of a prose, and Adams was a much more practical being, and certainly wasn't as jovial or anything like that, right? But when we come to the Constitution and how Madison is considered the father of the Constitution, but didn't necessarily engage in the full writing of the Constitution, I have yet to be convinced that somehow there's something better. The left will tell you, well, look at the South African Constitution. It sucks. And if you buy into the South African Constitution, holy hell, are you not allowed anywhere near power in my country? Oh, dear God. But I believe in this small government. And that is a government that says we can't afford to do all these things. It makes the hard decisions. It says no. Mamdani doesn't say no. Except to you, when you say, I want to keep my money, Mamdani says no. Why are people staying? You are watching the last pages of Atlas Shrugged come to life. And it's only a matter of time before the lights go out. I don't know if Florida's Gulch. Me, I happen to like the Midwest, but it's certainly better than whatever the hellscape is that New York is offering. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Hey, it kills me to talk about New York in this way, right? Born in Brooklyn, grew up in Jersey, and love it. And I was really hoping to be able to get back before Mamdani took office. And now it's like, nah, I'm good. I'll wait. I'm supposed to maybe head out in June and go to a little bit of a youth group reunion. I'll go to Jersey. I'm not going to New York. I'm done. Stinks. It absolutely stinks. The only thing I have said, I've made this offer to my governor. I want to be the Hoosier ambassador to New York. And it's the only way I'll go is if I have a security team with me. And I want to go visit businesses and say, you should move your business to Indiana. None of your politics. You leave that crap here. But you should bring your business to Indiana where you can have a better life and a better opportunity. And we should be going after all sorts of groups, wealth management groups and investor groups and manufacturing businesses. And what are you doing? It's too hot in Florida. And they've got frozen iguanas falling from the sky. Come to Indiana. We have corn and we have tenderloins. Oh, we also have an incredible amount of people coming from the greatest universities out there who are going to be able to do the work that you need. We also have an insane low cost of housing. We also have, I don't know, any world-class amenity you could ever possibly want. And your people can actually keep their money and spend it on themselves as opposed to Mamdani. So, you in or you out? Oh, I'd be great at it. Great at it. I'd love to do it. And we have the Indianapolis 500. That's right, producer Landon. What are you going to get? You can't even drive in New York. We're going 232 miles an hour. But without all the prissiness of Formula One. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for that. A lot. No, I'm not going to say that. All right, we're coming back. You got it. And then we've got a White House press briefing, so I look forward to that. What are the odds that she's on time? 0? Let's get back to the show. The talks continue between Russia and Ukraine. Oh, they're not done yet. They're still talking, and Witkoff is saying they're going to keep having conversations and they're going to keep working towards peace. Tell me when they get there. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Tell me when they get there. Because it would seem to me that they're not there at all. Putin doesn't want to be there. And Zelensky's argument is, you're all crazy. He's the problem. It's not support of Zelensky. 100%. I don't think he's the greatest guy in the world. But he is the one who's been invaded. Ukraine's the one that's been invaded. And you don't have any movement from NATO to try and stop this. There doesn't seem to be enough pressure on here to try and put an end to this. So, all right. All you have is more chit-chat and jibber-jabber and all the rest. You don't have anything actually done. I had hoped, and certainly I did think, that we would have had this done already. I don't expect this to get done. I will be shocked if all of a sudden I hear, hey, there's a deal. They're going to keep working on it. They're going to keep working on it. But there is no part of me that believes that Vladimir Putin would adhere to any deal for any length of time. A deal is not worth the paper it's written on when dealing with Vladimir Putin. I think we've proven this by now, which could be part of the problem. The White House briefing is set to begin. I will bring it to you in full. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. So here's what we've got. we have got the White House briefing that's supposed to begin at 1 o'clock. Right now, it's happening. It's not 1 o'clock. Right, so the program's going to begin shortly. I'm going to bring it to us in full, even if it starts before the radio show comes into play. We're going to take the break. The radio show is in break, so we're going to take the break right now. Smoke them if you got them. Hang loose. I'll be back in a few. I'm going to take care of this nose. Guys, we're back to it. We got another hour to go. Glad you're here. I'm Tony Katz. Stick with us. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. I think the voice sounds fine. It's just this it's cold. It's not cold. I still think it's allergies. That's my take. Just dumb. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's see. No. Sorry, forgive me for looking at something. All right, there it is. That's going to be it. Okay. Yep. Coming back in 1 minute. Let's see where we are with the briefing. And nowhere yet. Nowhere on this yet. Let's see. Let me do that. And do this. 30 seconds. We can do that. Groovy. White House press briefing coming right up. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com. I don't know what actually leads. I'm assuming it will be look at the ecological disaster that Democrats allowed to happen in Maryland, putting millions of gallons of sewage into the Potomac. And they did nothing about it because they don't care, because they're incompetent, because they're incapable. I'm assuming that's going to be first things first. That it's going to be this. Look at these people. They claim to care. They claim that the environment matters. But when it comes down to it, they're not willing to do any work. They don't care what happens. And the press, the media, kept it all silent for as long as they could because they didn't want to make Democrats look bad. That's the name of the game. Don't make Democrats look bad. That's media. That's who they are. That's how they act. I'm assuming that is going to be first. Now, what are the questions going to be about? From the press? Oh, that part's so much easier. All Epstein. 10,000 to billion %. It's going to be questions about Epstein and the Epstein files and the release. And why did it take so long? And why not this? Even though the more that you see and the more people you see listed in it, Trump did nothing wrong. But they don't care. I mean, they still want to scream Trump pedophile. These people are not bright, and they're not trying to be. They're all trolls. It is all about trying to tear down the opposition. In this case, the opposition is you, because you want to have a rational conversation. They don't care about rationality. And so I was having today, I spoke at an event this morning, and I was talking about the problem, as I see it, is the unwillingness to fight. Unwilling to fight is the political left. I'm sorry, it's the political right against the political left. The political left is out there saying we want communism, and the political right won't even redistrict. If there's anything that signals where these two parties are at, and where the real divide is in America and the real conversation about strength, there it is, about willingness. They are openly saying communism, global order, all of it. And Republicans are like, well, we can't redistrict. Hakeem Jeffries is going after Virginia. Why is Hakeem Jeffries going after Virginia? Because their new map would leave one Republican seat. And he's like, why would you leave a Republican seat? Democrats are killers. They're not interested in the rules. They're not interested in this, that, and the other. Remember, we were told Republicans, if they redistrict, it's breaking the rules. There's no breaking the rules here. It's a political process. Of course you can mid-decade redistrict. There's no rule against it. But when Democrats do it, why are you looking at what Democrats do? Republicans think that they can nice their way through this. Republicans are wrong. How do you nice your way through the very concept or with a group who has the idea that children can determine their gender and that mutilation surgery is good? How do you rationalize with these people? Someone's asking me in the chat room, I thought Republicans were redistricting. They did in Texas. They did a little bit in North Carolina. They did not in Indiana. Oh, there was some deal allegedly brokered between Indiana and Maryland. And of course, they have to go through, will things get through their Senate and will things get through court challenges and all these things? But they're moving full steam ahead. There are states that said no to redistricting. I didn't say you wanted to have this conversation. Sometimes you have to deal with the fact that the conversation is there. You can't ignore it. You can't avoid it. It's right there, right in front of your face. You may not want to admit to the doctor you're with a hooker, but something has to explain the chlamydia. You can't unring the bell. Was that a little harsh as an example? Can I get a ruling on that? Was that a little? You say I'm good. Until I hear from our executive producer Matt Hiblin, I have no idea if we're good. Because I think that might have been a little rough. Yeah, maybe I should apologize. I could do better. I promise I could do better. And the chat room, by the way, watching on the live stream is like, great example, Katz. That was perfect. I understand now. Before it was all confusing, but when you relate Congress and politics to STDs, it all makes perfect sense. Now we can have a conversation. It's a real lack of fight because I don't think people define what fight is. What it is that we're dealing with? What it is that we're seeing here? The shutdown, of course, is going to come up in this press conference. I believe that'll be true. So let's start with those two things. I think this press conference is the Potomac looking crappy. The sewage, right? Not bad, Cats. And then the shutdown. But I still don't think they'll talk about it in the right way. Chuck Schumer shut down the Department of Homeland Security because he doesn't want the Coast Guard removing drugs coming in from other countries because he wants kids in America to die on playgrounds. I'm sorry. Are we going to fight or not? That's the question. When we come back, I think the press conference will be going on. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Steve Bannon, Jeffrey Epstein. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. No, I'm not about to apologize for saying what I just said. Nah. Why would I? I don't think that I did anything wrong in noting that Steve Bannon had a lot to do with Epstein. That there's more and more and more in these files regarding their connection. And I would say to you, as I have said before, just because you're in the files doesn't mean you did anything wrong. I don't know if that's the case. Certainly, what I can argue is that it was obvious that there was a relationship there, and what that relationship actually meant, and how much it was connected, and what other things they may have done together. I don't think I would make that accusation on Bannon. But is there any question he was trying to get Jeffrey Epstein to pay for a documentary? Is there any question that he was trying to get this done? In a February 16th profile in the New York Times, Bannon said, "I'm a filmmaker, TV host with decades of experience interviewing controversial figures. That's the only lens through which these private communications should be viewed. A documentary filmmaker working over a period of time to secure 50 hours of interviews from a reclusive subject." Maybe. Maybe. Possibly. Or you believed he had a lot of money and you wanted to get paid. Maybe it's exactly as he says. He was giving him compliments and he was talking him up because he wanted the access so he could make the film. Who was going to pay for it? That's my question. Who was going to pay for the film? Who was putting up the money? Who was going to see this? Because this was about rehabilitation, right? So I'm saying that if the reclusive subject was somebody really well known, remember, Epstein was known in circles. They did some spots about him, like Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous stuff about him, but known? You didn't know who Jeffrey Epstein was. If you were around in the 80s or the 90s, you had absolutely no idea. You didn't know. You had no clue. You weren't in those circles. You weren't hanging out at Studio 54. You didn't know. So when you talk about the 20 teens, and there's Bannon saying, "Hey, I want to get access. I want to make this thing." Why would you want to make that thing? He still wasn't known. He was known to certain celebrities, and he was known, of course, for the indictments, the issues in Florida. But in the main, who would know? Who are you going to sell this to? So it wasn't. I don't think it would make sense as a business that Bannon would be like, "Yeah, we'll just go. I want to make a documentary about you." I think it would make sense that he was offering this so important rehabilitation. I think that's the story. That's what he was offering. Meanwhile, as we wait for the White House briefing to start, you have Minnesota prosecutors demanding federal evidence in the shooting death of Alex Preddy. Alex Preddy is the one who a week before was screaming at ICE agents and breaking their tail light and the rest. And then he was the one who was trying to stop ICE agents. He was thrown to the ground. A gun was removed from him, and then he was shot and killed. Did someone say gun and then other officers fired? This is why you need investigations, and you can then get answers to how in the world this happened. But that does not mean Alex Preddy was a good guy. Not in the slightest. I will never buy into that. I could buy in to the fact that he shouldn't have been killed, but you can't get me to buy into the fact that he was somehow some decent guy, some good guy, some stand-up guy. Oh, hell no. Hiding evidence and obstructing our investigation is unacceptable and indicates a total lack of confidence in their agents' actions. That, according to the Hennepin County Attorney, Mary Moriarty. We are prepared to take further legal action should the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice fail to meet our deadline and continue to obstruct our investigations. Our work will reflect our commitment to transparency and accountability, even as the federal government tries to avoid both. The county filed a letter. I think it's pronounced TUHY, T-O-U-H-Y. Am I pronouncing that properly? It's a process of asking a federal agency to release official information, documents, video, testimony from federal employees for use in non-federal cases. So if they're not providing the information, I would agree that I don't know where the opportunity is to not provide it. I think that this should be remembered every time information is not given to the feds. But again, I'm not here to try and obfuscate or try to run cover for the agents, for the actions of ICE agents. If a failure occurred, a massive one at that, we're talking about the loss of life, and there are going to be people who have to deal with it. If there was lying involved, as we know about this conversation on the federal side, well, then people who lied have to go to jail. No lying will be tolerated. Thank you very much. So with that, I'm not sure if the feds can say we're working on our investigation and then we'll release it to you. Because if we release it to you, you're just going to leak it everywhere. You're going to do whatever with it, and you're not going to, it's going to affect our ability to engage properly, which is very much how you guys act. You work in a way to try and prevent us from engaging properly. But I don't know how long you're going to be able to go without giving this information. Then there's one of the great headlines. Oh, this is just spectacular. This is Newsmax. Obama aides dismissed Trump as a clown ahead of the 2016 win. How many more things could the Obama team have been wrong about? How many more things could they possibly have been wrong about? They were wrong about Iran. They were wrong about Russia in the debates. They were wrong about everything. Wrong about climate. They're wrong all the time. They were just dumb people. The New York Times reporting that newly released interviews that were compiled by Columbia reveal how dismissive Obama's inner circle was of Trump in the early years. David Axelrod didn't expect it. This was 2011 White House Correspondents Association dinner. Now that dinner is highlighted as the moment that Trump said, I'm running for office, because there was Barack Obama as president from the stage mocking Trump, mocking the persona, the birther claims, which the whole thing was nutty. But Obama's the one with the history of claiming he's from here, there, and everywhere. He had written in forwards and books and everything else. He's the one who was purposeful about not clearing these things up. Guy tells me he was born in Hawaii. You're born in Hawaii. I'd leave it be. But that is seen as the moment that it all changed. That was seen as the moment where Trump said, oh, we're doing this? Okay, we will do this. I think I'm going to run for office. I think I'm going to run for office, and I think I'm going to have a world-class time with it. You mock me? You think I'm just going to sit there and take it? Okay. And I think while he sat there and stared at Obama and didn't smile and didn't laugh and didn't nod, while he did all that, he calculated in his head what it would cost to launch a run. He didn't know anything else other than I'll be at Trump Tower and I'll announce I'm running. I need some people. What's that going to cost me? I figured I got to put $25 million to it right away. And that's what happened. It is the White House briefing, and Karoline Leavitt has taken the stage.
Your patience as always. Let's begin with some scheduling announcements for the remainder of President Trump's very busy week. Today at 3 p.m., President Trump will host a Black History Month reception in the East Room of the White House. I know many of you will attend, and we will see you up there. Tomorrow, President Trump will host a Board of Peace meeting at the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, where he will announce that member states have pledged more than $5 billion towards the Gaza humanitarian and reconstruction efforts, and have also committed thousands of personnel to the International Stabilization Force and local police to maintain security and peace for Gazans. Tomorrow afternoon, the president will travel to the great state of Georgia, where he will visit 2 local businesses and give a speech on his efforts to make life affordable for working people. On Friday, President Trump will host a working breakfast with governors in the East Room here at the White House. And on Saturday night, President Trump and the First Lady will host the annual Governor's Dinner. Next, I'd like to provide an update on the economy. We're seeing promising signs every day that 2026 is going to be a record successful year for the American people, just as President Trump promised.
Going to Georgia to talk to businesses, talk about making things more affordable. Now, 2026 is going to be epic. You got to be able to show it. That's the key. More from Karoline Leavitt when we return. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. Follow on Twitter, X Tony Katz, Instagram Tony Katz, even Facebook, Tony Katz Radio. This is Tony Katz today.
Labor force participation rate went up while the unemployment rate fell. The prime age labor force participation rate is now at its highest since 2001. Most importantly, 100% of all job creation under President Trump continues to be in the private sector. This is truly remarkable. That's 615,000 private sector jobs that have been added in President Trump's second term thus far. These are real working people. These are real American families who will be living out their American dream. Meanwhile, federal government employment has shrunk to its lowest level since 1966, saving taxpayers $29 billion annually. And all of the net job growth under President Trump has gone to native-born Americans, ending the disgraceful pattern under Joe Biden of job gains going to non-citizens and illegal aliens. Additionally, on inflation, the new CPI report is even more proof of the progress made by President Trump. Despite all of the doom casting from the so-called experts, the president has managed to utilize powerful tariffs to secure trillions of dollars in investments into our country and rebalance our trade deals while simultaneously cooling inflation. Year-over-year inflation fell to 2.4% in January, beating expectations again and marking the lowest level since May. Core inflation, the best measure of inflation, dropped to its lowest level in nearly 5 years. Meanwhile, real average hourly earnings for all private sector workers rose in the month of January, which means more money is going back directly into people's pockets. After only 1 year of President Trump back in office, real earnings for all private sector workers have outpaced inflation by nearly $1,400, earning back roughly half of the $2,900 they lost under Joe Biden when 40-year high inflation was stealing Americans' purchasing power. President Trump's policies are and will continue to allow Americans' incomes to go further for bills, retirement, and achieving the American dream. A key part of the American dream is buying a home. And that is finally becoming more affordable under this president. This past week, it was announced the annual mortgage cost for a new home has fallen by $4,000 so far under President Trump, after rising by roughly $15,000 under Joe Biden. As a result, mortgage affordability has reached a 4-year best following recent bold action by the president to make home ownership more attainable for American families, not large Wall Street corporate institutional investors. At the same time, national median rents have fallen to a 4-year low
Rents have
and
gone
have
down.
declined for
True.
6 consecutive months. The annual rental cost for a new rental unit has fallen nearly $100 so far under President Trump, after rising more than $3,000 under Joe Biden. And many are crediting that to the president's deportation efforts to remove illegal aliens from our communities and therefore from housing that should be used for American citizens. At the grocery store, the price of eggs, dairy, cheese, fresh fruit, apples, oranges, potatoes, tomatoes, and butter have fallen since President Trump took office. And he is continuing to fight for even lower prices at the grocery store for the American consumer. At the gas pump, fuel prices are down by almost 10% over the past year. The average national price for a gallon of regular gas is now less than $3 and is approaching $2.70 in some states, and much lower than that in many states across the country as well. We've seen in several states gas is under $2 a gallon. And at the pharmacy, prescription drug prices are down over the past year, with even more price relief ahead for American patients, thanks to President Trump's most favored nation drug pricing deals and the great healthcare plan, which he is calling on Congress to pass as soon as possible. What President Trump wants Americans to understand is that this is only the start and the best is yet to come. The historic success that we have seen since he took office is just the beginning of enormous growth and opportunity that we are about to witness. And I know the president looks forward to hitting the road and being with the great people of Georgia tomorrow to talk about just this. So with that, today, I know there's a lot of news. I will open it up to take your questions, and we're going to start, as always, with our new media.
No mention of the shutdown in the opening, so I would have lost that bet. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today, good to be with you. It's the White House press briefing. Of course, there's also Ash Wednesday. Good Ash Wednesday to those who celebrate. And let's start with the questions being asked in the new media seat.
Number one source of power across New England. The cheap gas is in Pennsylvania. The two highest places to buy gas in the country, New York City and Boston. The problem is the blue states will not allow the gas to travel to produce electricity or to reach customers. When President Trump first came back in office, there was some talk, him and Governor Hochul in New York possibly reaching a deal. When will consumers in the Northeast feel relief from President Trump's energy policies? And what can he do about state objections to expansion of infrastructure? Then I have a quick follow-up.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the president has promised all Americans across the country, and in particular in the Northeast, where we do face much higher costs of electricity and of energy, unfortunately, because of the Democrat policies in the area. From the federal government's perspective, the president and the National Energy Dominance Council, Secretaries Wright and Burgum, are doing all we can when it comes to federal permitting. The drill, baby, drill agenda is obviously underway. The president has made a huge push for more fossil fuels in this country. You look at what he did last week with respect to coal. Coal truly keeps the lights on in this country. We learned that in the recent winter storms. However, there's only so much that can be done at the federal level. That's why the president has called on blue state governors to participate in this energy dominance agenda, including governors in New England and the Northeast, by contacting Governor Hochul directly to get this Constitution pipeline underway. This is not only going to bring down the cost of energy in the Northeast, it's also going to support job growth and energy affordability and more opportunity for workers in the Northeast. And I just have a quick statistic here on energy that I found fascinating, and it's obviously true because I'm saying it up here. Red states with Republican legislatures currently enjoy lower average retail electricity prices than blue states with Democrat legislatures. And that's exactly why the president is calling on all blue state governors across New England and the Northeast.
What are the odds you'll get Kathy Hochul in New York to do anything with you? Working with the administration is suicide for the progressive. This progressive can't have the suicide. They would rather the people suffer. How do you get them to work with you? How do you get them to be rational, normal people when they built an entire party based on vicious, foaming at the mouth hate?
The message is that illegal immigration, while the border is secure, is still a problem across our entire homeland. And the previous administration allowed nearly 20 million illegal aliens from countries all over the world into our country. And the president and Secretary Noem have done a phenomenal job at deporting. Nearly 3 million illegals have left the country either through deportation or self-deportation over the past year. But obviously, there are a lot more illegal alien criminals left in our homeland. That includes in New England. There are many within our communities in New Hampshire, in Maine, and definitely in Massachusetts and in the Boston suburbs that need to be arrested, detained, and deported back to their home countries. And so the president and Secretary Noem, and I know ICE, are engaged with local governors across the whole country, including in New Hampshire, to open more detention facilities. This is an unfortunate consequence of the previous administration's border invasion that the president has thankfully put a stop to. But of course, we still need to grapple with the illegal alien criminals who are here, and that requires more detention space.
And it also requires ICE not stopping. Do not stop. People like strength. This is strength.
Can you share?
I would be so unwise.
Unless you want to give them. Can you share a little bit about the president's thinking on whether or not to strike Iran, who he's talking to, what information he's consuming, and why a strike might be necessary on a nuclear program he says was obliterated by the last U.S. strike?
Well, there's many reasons and arguments that one could make for a strike against Iran. The president had a very successful operation as commander-in-chief with Operation Midnight Hammer, as you know, as you just said, totally obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. The president has always been very clear, though, with respect to Iran or any country around the world, diplomacy is always his first option, and Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and with this administration. He's talking to many people, of course, his national security team, first and foremost, and you know who the members of that team are. And this is something, obviously, the president takes seriously. He's always thinking about what's in the best interest of the United States of America, of our military, of the American people. And that's how he makes decisions with respect to military.
You can't square the circle on this one. What deal is going to get made with the Ayatollah? Because that means that the Ayatollah gets to remain. How does that work for the people of Iran who want to be free? And Trump said help is on its way. These two things don't jive. So we are still not at the place of what does it mean to stop any further possibility of Iran as a nuclear power. How does it help the people? How do you crack the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps? How do you get the Ayatollah out? How do you stop the money from flowing, the money from being built? And the only thing I can think is that the military strike is a military strike on oil and not on nuclear facilities. That ends the money, and that ends that.
Appeal a judge's ruling that in essence was trying to put the slavery displays back, arguing that the federal government believed it had the power to disassemble and disassemble historical truths when it has some domain over historical facts. The judge said it does not. The administration said that you were planning to put up updated interpretive materials and provide a fuller account of the history of slavery at Independence Hall. What more was the administration, or is the administration, planning to add?
I'm not familiar with this specific instance, Ed, to be honest with you, but I will check in with the appropriate people who are overseeing this, and we'll get you a more firm answer.
One other question. Then yesterday in his statement about Jesse Jackson, the president said, despite the fact that I'm falsely and consistently called a racist by the scoundrels and lunatics on the radical left, Democrats all, it was always my pleasure to help Jesse along the way. Where or when does the president believe he's been falsely called racist?
You're kidding, right? I will pull you plethora of examples. I'm going to get my team in that room to start going through the internet of radical Democrats throughout the years, Ed, who have accused this president falsely of being a racist. And I'm sure there's many people in this room and on network television across the country who have accused him of the same. In fact, I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes. And the president very much looks forward to having an event later this afternoon at 3 p.m. to celebrate Black History Month and to talk about how his policies are advancing opportunity and prosperity for all Americans.
That was a serious question.
Record tax cuts through the Trump account that
Trump
all Americans
racist?
can access regardless of race. These are a great thing for the next generation of Americans. The president has also awarded hundreds of millions of dollars in additional funding to strengthen educational outcomes at historically black
Jesse Jackson was a terrible person. He was a shakedown artist.
He was the president is protecting the
There'll be no cheering of Jesse Jackson.
2.4 million black veterans who honorably served in our nation's armed forces by reducing the backlog of veterans waiting for their VA benefits. And for their home loans through the Department of Veterans Affairs. So there is a lot this president has done for all Americans, regardless of race, and he has absolutely been falsely called and smeared as a racist, and I'm happy to provide you those receipts, and we gladly will right after this briefing. Jennifer, go ahead.
You mentioned the $5 billion in pledges for the Board of Peace. Will we be able to get a breakdown of which countries are providing each of those pledges?
Yes.
And which countries are
about Gaza and the
providing
poor.
Sure, we're happy to provide that breakdown, and I'm also happy to provide the list of countries that will be attending tomorrow. I know it's more than 20 countries. I know there's a lot of interest in that. I'll spare myself reading you the list of 20 countries from the podium, but we will provide it, and the president will be opening the meeting tomorrow with remarks, and will sort of formally be chairing the meeting at the beginning before he departs for Georgia tomorrow.
the sewage spill, the sewage pipe that broke on the Potomac. Can you give us an update on the federal
Said that
government's
was coming.
response? And officials have told CBS that some of that aging infrastructure
she's
is a
smart, she's
concern,
going
that
to
this
town on this
particular
pipe.
wasn't even of the most urgent concern. Do you know if the government is looking into which other pipes could be at risk of collapsing?
Well, the next step in this process is for any of the three local jurisdictions involved, whether that's the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Maryland and Governor Moore, or the District of Columbia, to step forward and to ask the federal government for help and to ask for the Stafford Act to be implemented here so that the federal government can go and take control of this local infrastructure that has been abandoned and neglected by Governor Moore in Maryland for far too long. In fact, it's no secret that Maryland's water and infrastructure have been in dire need of repair. Their infrastructure has received a nearly failing grade in the 2025 report card from the American Society of Civil Engineers. This is the same grade they've received 5 years earlier. There has been no improvement under the leadership of Governor Moore. He's clearly shown he's incapable of fixing this problem, which is why President Trump and the federal government are standing by to step in.
Governor Moore, meaning Governor Westmore of Maryland, there was a sewage leak out of Maryland. It has leaked into the Potomac, 300 million gallons of sewage. The media refused to cover the story. And now, of course, Trump has said, I'm stepping in, I'm taking over. And what Wes Moore's team, the governor of Maryland, has said is, well, it's about time. I mean, after all, you're responsible for this.
A few minutes ago, Maryland's Governor Wes Moore asked. He said, if the president wants me to ask nicely, our response is this. Please, Mr. President, do your job.
To which I say, I'll ask the president and we will provide you with the next steps. But in all seriousness, the federal government has been preparing plans. The White House has been in contact with FEMA, with the Army Corps of Engineers, with the Environmental Protection Agency. Again, we've been standing by. This is a problem we want to fix, not just for the federal government, but for everyone who lives in the District of Columbia, including all of you. So you're welcome.
To your point about that, there are a lot of events coming up for America 250. The president wants people from all over to come to the nation's capital. Is he worried that by the summer, the Potomac River will still smell like poop?
He is worried about that, which is why the federal government wants to fix it. And we hope that the local authorities will cooperate with us in doing so. Steve.
I would also be concerned about a thing. But Democrats immediately like, it's Trump's fault. Trump this, Trump that. Trump didn't do that. No grown-ups, no working together, no matter what the situation. How can I use it to a political advantage? How can I hurt my opponent? It's really gross stuff. More is coming up. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. All right, let's get more of Karoline Leavitt.
Security. First, you must achieve security to get to prosperity, which is sort of the second part of this plan. So you'll be hearing more about that tomorrow. But I would just point out, $5 billion worth of investment. We're talking about reconstructing Gaza. I remember when those words came from the president's lips in the East Room many months ago, and all of you in the press were bewildered at how the president could have such an ambitious goal of rebuilding Gaza, which is obviously a place that has been just turmoiled by violence and chaos for many, many years. But we are well underway in doing that, and it's a historic accomplishment for this president.
Secondly, is the president seeing enough progress in the Iran talks to let negotiations go a little little further. I mean, where do things stand after yesterday's talks?
I think you heard from the administration and the State Department yesterday that there was a little bit of progress made, but we're still very far apart on some issues. I believe the Iranians are expected to come back to us with some more detail in the next couple of weeks. And so the president will continue to watch how this plays out. Sure.
On that. Thank you, Karoline. On these Iran talks, I mean, how much time is the president willing to give it before he is seriously maybe considering military action? Is he willing to give it that full 2 weeks? And has he given the Iranian officials a deadline on when he wants to see a deal?
It's a fair question, Rachel, but I'm not going to set deadlines on behalf of the president of the United States.
And then just one more on the shutdown. We're now in this partial shutdown over DHS funding. Has the president personally spoken to the Democratic leaders in Congress? Can we expect to see them at the White House to try to make a deal on this?
Not to my knowledge, he hasn't had any direct conversation or correspondence with Democrat lawmakers recently. It doesn't mean he's not willing to. I'm just not aware of any conversations that have taken place. I do know the White House and the president's representatives have been in direct conversations with both Democrats and Republicans. But of course, Democrats are the reason that the Department of Homeland Security is currently shut down. They have chosen to act against the American people for political reasons. And now we have FEMA workers, the men and women of the United States Coast Guard, men and women of TSA who keep our airports moving, who will be working without paychecks for no good reason other than the Democrats wanting to pick a fight with Donald Trump. And the president thinks that is irresponsible and despicable. He wants the government to be open. We've been engaged in good faith negotiations with the Democrats. Last night, they sent over a counter proposal that frankly was very unserious, and we hope they get serious very soon because Americans are going to be impacted by this. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. President Trump has talked about a forthcoming executive order on voter ID. Is there more details you can provide about for that? And can you talk about any steps that you're taking to overcome court challenges that you kind of faced in this area before on voting?
Well, as the president said in that Truth Social post, he's discussing and exploring legal options for a potential executive order with respect to voter ID. But this is something he's made very clear he wants Congress to get done. The Save America Act is a common sense piece of legislation that has now passed the House of Representatives to ensure that voter ID is a requirement in the United States of America. This is a common sense policy that nearly 90% of the country agrees with. You need an ID to go and purchase alcohol. You need an ID to go to the library and check out a book. And so the president thinks you should have an ID to vote in our nation's elections. And I know the vast majority of Americans agree with him on that, and he wants Congress to move quickly to get it done.
Thank you so much. Sure. On Cuba, it's increasingly being described as a humanitarian crisis. What is a successful outcome for the U.S. that the U.S. wants to see in Cuba? Is there anything less than regime change that would be considered success?
I think as Secretary Rubio has articulated and the president himself, we obviously want to see flourishing and prosperous democracies all over the world, especially in our own hemisphere. I'm not dictating any actions the United States may take to get there. But of course, that's in the United States' best interest to have Cuba be a truly free and prosperous democracy. Unfortunately, right now, that is not the case. They are a regime that is falling. Their country is collapsing. And that's why we believe it's in their best interest to make very dramatic changes very soon. And we'll see what they decide to do. Sure.
Thank you so much. Following up on Gaza, this $5 billion, who exactly will be in charge of managing this money? Would that be the president himself making the final decisions on how these funds are spent?
It will be the Board of Peace, which the president is, of course, the chairman of, but all of the member parties, I believe, will have votes on the funding. And then, of course, there is that technocratic layer underneath the official Board of Peace with the member countries that will be making decisions as well. So if you just go back and look at the first event that we had where we sort of unveiled the structure of the Board of Peace, that structure remains in place and they'll be overseeing the funds that will be announced tomorrow for their reconstruction and humanitarian efforts.
Board of Peace. Listen,
question on that Board of Peace announcement. You mentioned there will be the announcement of who comprises that International Stability Force. How soon will that force be deployed? And have all of the regional partners, all of the regional countries signed off on the makeup of that force?
I don't have a timeline for you today, but again, I'm sure you'll hear more about this tomorrow. So you'll join us at the event.
The Board of Peace.
Two questions.
That's about securing Gaza. $5 billion have been pledged Who's pledged it? Well, they're going to have a meeting about that, event about that tomorrow. 20 countries are in. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Karoline Leavitt doing the press briefing. I always love the press briefing. So much great stuff. Like a reporter asking, when has anyone ever called Donald Trump a racist? That got asked.
The president is obviously committed to
Nutty. Let's take it back to Karoline Leavitt with the White House briefing.
Lawfully present in the United States, which he has done at a record pace, which has led to the falling of rents, as I pointed out in my opening remarks. Secondly, the president has recently announced that he is fighting for a ban on institutional investors and Wall Street billionaire corporations from buying up single-family homes that should be lived in his opinion, by American families. We know this is going to have a remarkable impact on the housing market and on prices and supply and demand for the American consumer and the American family. And then thirdly, the president is also expediting permitting as fast as we possibly can to build more homes, to increase supply, to obviously bring down the cost of home ownership and purchasing homes for the American people. And then also, as I mentioned as well, we do see mortgage rates falling. So all of this is combining to make housing more affordable in this country. There's still a lot more to do. The president is still digging his way out of the mess that was created by Joe Biden's administration and jacking up mortgage rates and jacking up housing costs. But we do see very positive trends in this direction.
Better if you're talking about this 6 months ago, but I'm glad you're talking about it now.
A nation of owners, not renters. He wants families to live in homes, not institutions and big corporations. Michael.
Now that's going to lead to some weird legislation. We're going to tell people who they can't live in SOTU.
But an interview that he says that it's not fair that the president is saying that Ukraine has to make concessions. He's saying this publicly and not Russia. Has the president seen these comments? And when the president says that Ukraine has to make concessions, is he referring to giving up Donbass?
I think the president would respond to that by saying he does not think it's fair that thousands of Ukrainians are losing their lives, and Russians too, in this deadly war. And that's why the president and his team have committed a tremendous amount of time and energy in bringing this war that is very far away from the United States of America, but nevertheless, this is a president of peace. And so he's committed a tremendous amount of time and energy to bringing this war to an end. Just yesterday, there was another round of trilateral talks between the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine. There was meaningful progress made.
Yeah. No peace will occur without land. Land is getting given up. NATO has shown that they're not putting the force on the ground. The United States is not putting troops on the ground. No one has rattled Vladimir Putin's cage. He's getting the land. We don't have to keep talking about this. Putin thinks he can get more, and he's not going to come to the table until he gets what he wants, which means this goes on. There's no end in sight. I thought there would be. I was wrong. There's no end in sight. It's not over until it's over. The end. We don't have to think that much harder about it. It is obvious that this is not going away anytime soon. And it's obvious that the Donbass, Donetsk and Luhansk, and possibly the areas of Zaporizhia, etc., are going to become Russian territory. Not because I want it, because it is. It is. Let's just grow up. This is what's happening. Let's not kid ourselves. Silly if we lie. More is coming up. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. And don't forget to get your tickets for February 28th. Trump 1 year, 1 month later with the bourbons and the food and a great time. Saturday night, tickets.TonyKatz.com. Get those tickets right now. This is Tony Katz Today.
Check in with our speech writing team, and that would be of great interest to me personally, and I'm sure all of you in this room, and apparently former President Obama too. So we'll keep you posted on that. Tyler.
The White House has touted an unprecedented amount of cooperation with counties in Minneapolis after the negotiations with Tom Homan. Are those written or verbal deals with the sheriff? How many have agreed to cooperate on immigration enforcement who previously refused to do so?
Yeah, the last time I spoke with Mr. Homan, which was just a few days ago, he assured us that nearly every single county in the state of Minnesota has agreed to notify ICE when they are releasing criminal illegal aliens from their jails. This is an unprecedented level of cooperation that we have not seen. It has led to not only cooperation to detain illegal aliens in Minnesota, which just this past week, I have looked at at the list. They've detained some very heinous people who none of you would want living in your communities, but has also led to a much more calm situation on the ground. We've also seen, and you've seen this with your own eyes play out, the local police and the state police have now cooperated in the arrests of left-wing agitators and criminals who are unlawfully obstructing immigration enforcement in their efforts. So this is a huge win. And again, the president sent Mr. Homan to Minnesota to do a job, and he has done it well. And I think the situation on the ground proves that.
Are those like written agreements that they've been signed by various officials in the state?
These are agreements that have been made by state and local officials in the federal government, and we are seeing that cooperation play out every single day. These counties are notifying ICE when they are releasing criminal illegals from their jail, and we do know that they are arresting left-wing agitators who are unlawfully impeding law enforcement. There's video to show that.
Yes.
Show it yourself. You can view it with your own eyes.
Yes.
John.
Thank you, Karoline. You mentioned two things: DHS closed and the SAVE Act IDs. Both of these could get solved in 15 minutes if Senate leader John Thune simply got rid of this phony 60-vote cloture rule and got 51 votes, and that would be the end of it, because everyone in this room knows if the Democrats take over, they'll get rid of that rule in 90 minutes. They already tried it one time, and the two Democratic senators that stopped it are no longer there, Manchin and Sinema. President Trump is backing a lot of these senators for re-election, and yet they will not get rid of the 60-vote cloture rule, which is holding everything up. What is the president's position on John Thune in the Senate finally getting rid of this so this legislation can get moved?
Well, the president has a good relationship with Senate Majority Leader John Thune. They keep in very close contact, and they work together all of the time. I hear your passion in your voice, and I know it's shared by many Americans across the country, including the president himself. He wants to see the SAVE Act voted, and he's expressed that both publicly to all of you, the American people, but also privately in his conversations with Senate Majority Leader Thune and many other members of Congress as well. Yes, Rob, go ahead. Good to see you.
So J.B. Pritzker just recently signed the bill. The law went into effect in January, and it's supposedly going to allocate about $2.5 billion to illegals to go to college and financial aid in the state of Illinois. What is the White House's reaction to this? Illinois is already, by 2027, they're supposed to have a $3 billion deficit. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that. I would say the president certainly thinks that Governor Pritzker is not doing a very good job of managing his state, as evidenced by not only the waste.
I'll do you one better.
But also,
you know who also today had a speech, a State of the State address at the same time as the briefing? The governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. And that was on the schedule. You know what came on the schedule after that? This press briefing. And do I think the press briefing was there to keep people away from J.B. Pritzker's State of the State? Yes, I do. 10,000%. Guys, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being part of the show. I hope you'll get your tickets, tickets.tonykatz.com for Trump 1 year. And 1 month later, it's going to be amazing. The bourbon, the food, the path to victory. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Tickets.tonykatz.com. You gotta get the tickets. Get the tickets. Be a part of it. It's going to be amazing. We'll close out sales this week. Get there Saturday, February 28th. Can't wait to see you. It's going to be incredible. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to go deal with this cold, and I will catch you tomorrow. Y'all be good now. Take care.